welcome to another episode of Inside CKP. I am your host, Jeremy Como, and today we have the multi-talented Joy Wandrey. Joy, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And before we get into it, let's pay the bills. This show is brought to you by Chris Kennedy Publishing. Go to chriskennedypublishing.com for all your literary needs. You can find space odysseys, military science fiction, fantasy, a little bit of romance, which we'll be talking about today. Anything and everything, of course. To support this show and Chris Kennedy Publishing, go to their Patreon. You can get all kinds of cool stuff there, including CKP Confidential. And of course, you can find everything on Amazon for CKP, but you can also just go through chriskennedypublishing.com. If you want to keep up on all the shenanigans that's going on with CKP, you can join the Facebook group. The Factory Floor is the fan page. And of course, you can find us on YouTube as well for book launches and general interviews. So with all that said, Joy, welcome. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me online at Facebook, Instagram, all the places, at both Joy Wandrey and at Spinners End Studio. You can also find my products online at spinnersendstudio.com/shop. There's some pages about me and some stuff about working with wool there as well. And that's most of it, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
So what about appearances? Where can we see Joy Wandrey in the wild? Are you going anywhere soon?
Next place I'll be is Fantasy, and I'm looking forward to that. That's always a good time. Fantasy is a great little convention. And let's see, after that, I will be at the Hoosier Hills Fiber Festival the first weekend in June. That's in Franklin, Indiana. That's basically my hometown. It's my home county. It's the county fairgrounds at my home county. When we'll happen to be camped there for about 3 months, because all my family, of course, lives there. And that's a good halfway place between where my mom lives and where my dad lives. So we'll get to see everybody for several months, which is good. Let's see. After that, we'll be at LibertyCon in June. And then I don't think we have anywhere in July, August, or September. Depends on how good money is, whether we do something like FenCon or not. We are planning on being at FactoryCon in October. And we're planning also on being at 20 Books to 50K in November, both Mark and I. This will be the first year I get to go to that.
Awesome.
But I hope to promote the editing and series Bible work and timelines and wikis and author websites and things like that, so that I can bring in a little more money.
That's awesome. So let's for people who don't know you personally, and for people watching this in the future, let's talk about what you do, or one of the many things that you do with the Spinner Studio.
Okay, so Spinners End Studio came about mostly because I'm one of those absolutely scattered artists that likes to do everything 3D. So I spin, I knit, I crochet, I sew, I weave, I tat, which is a kind of lace making.
I thought you were talking about tattoos.
No, tatting. Tatting is a kind of lace making.
Okay.
If it's textiles, I'm fascinated with it. However, I also do woodwork. I had a minor in ceramics in school and major in woodworking and furniture design in art school. Let's see, what else have I done? I don't know. I really like to carve wood. My aunt loved, I loved to carve. In fact, I brought my hand carving tools with me. The few big tools I kept are in storage, but I brought my hand carving tools with me. So they live in the outside, one of the outside storage places. In fact, I have a couple of spoons I have to finish, and a little turtle that have been, they've been due for a couple of years to my aunt and uncle and cousin. There's this huge willow tree in their backyard of the house that they moved into when their boys were about 10 or 11. So the kids basically grew up in this house and playing under this tree, and it had finally reached the end of its lifespan or got hit by lightning or something anyway and knocked down in a storm.
Mm-hmm.
And my aunt called me up and she said, if I save you a little bit of this wood, can you do something cool with it? And I said, yeah, actually save me a couple of firewood sized chunks. I'll get it the next time I'm in town, and I'll do something fun with it. And so I made her a spoon and delivered it to her. And I think one of my cousins got his spoon. I still owe another spoon to the other cousin and a little turtle to my uncle. And eventually those will get done. But I look around at all the things.
So now the carving, do you, because I know you do a lot of making professionally. Do you carve?
Yeah.
Like you carve professionally too, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's just a for me, for fun, for heart projects like the spoons for my aunt and uncle. And I don't sell spoons or anything. I could. I spent a little time on YouTube not too long ago learning how to, with an axe, rough out a blank for a spoon from basically a firewood piece. But that's not something I'm going to want to do in the long run. My joints won't put up with it. I've had arthritis since I was like 19. So.
Oh, yeah. So what, as far as making stuff, what's your mainstay? What do you?
Mostly on the website, you will find project bags, backpacks, purses, those kinds of things. You'll also find some toys, some knitted toys and some crocheted toys. As far as the toys go, if it's cute and it takes my fancy, well, like the little octopus is a good, he's not one of mine, but.
Well, I do have some of yours.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm planning on trying to have some. Oh yeah. You've got one of the early Depic and a Fae. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So those two, the Depic and the Fae, are creatures out of the 4-HU. But mostly backpacks, bags, and purses. Let me see. I have.
Well, and if you don't have them, I've got a couple.
I have a new. Right, you're probably surrounded by them, aren't you? I have a new kind of sack that's good for sock type projects. That I just shipped off 6 of these to a store in southern Indiana today. The vast majority of what you'll find at my booth is this style, but a little wider. And they're just, a wedge. This one too has a sock in it. All my bags have pockets because no bag is worthwhile without a pocket.
Of course.
Oh, and if I can step to the side for a second, I'll grab the big one.
Okay, we'll miss you.
I should have had these things handy. I didn't think I'd be showing them off for some reason.
Well, and me too. I've got like 5 or 6 of your things here. Oh, so Marisa has one of these, and she absolutely loves it. Yeah,
she has sold more of these for me than anybody else, which is why she got hers for free.
Yeah, she gets excited.
Right. It is a roomy 11 by 11 by like 5 or 6. So it's very deep. You can put a lot in it. It's got a nice patch landing here on the front. It's got clips so that it closes securely. It's got a nice wide 2-inch strap. And this little pouch on the front holds so much stuff. This thing holds everything that I used to put in my regular purse. And then there's all of this room here. There's 2 little pockets on the front. There's a big open space. And then there's a tablet pocket in the back that's padded. So there's just a ridiculous amount of space. And then there's slip pockets on the sides. I only put it on one side on this one because I had to take it back apart and do it as an afterthought. But it's a nice pocket. Your phone fits in it or what have you. So, and the straps are always adjustable. And because I'm a big girl, I make the straps plenty long enough for anybody to be. And I like to wear them crossbody. So,
and I'm here to tell everyone that they are tough as hell. Those bags in particular, because Marisa is my wife, Marisa. also an author, is tough as hell on stuff, and it's holding up pretty good. And Joy's made her a Kindle cover, another cover of some kind. They're awesome. They're great. So I brought Joy on because this is selfish for me, because I like to make things and I like to talk to other people who make things. So yes, this is a CKP and she makes stuff for CKP, but this is mostly for me.
I have something special I can I wasn't going to share this, but I think I will.
We got a drop.
Sorry. I did the death roll. I disappeared. Okay, so people have been asking for this for quite a while.
Uh-oh.
I finally did it. We have Four Horsemen Universe fabric that will be made into bags. And they are all going to have printed, that's the same symbol, just small enough to print on the handle that goes on all the bags.
Okay.
So these will be in the 9x13 wedge bags. The only way I could figure it out was to print the cut lines on them, so that I knew I had the sizes I needed.
Right. That's awesome.
So we will have black and gold Four Horsemen Universe bags at Fantasy.
That is that soon.
At Fantasy, yeah.
Congratulations.
Not a whole lot of them because I just bought 1 yard. I'm sorry. I know I wasn't going to say, but now Mark's giving me a hard time for giving it up. Because I told him the other day I wasn't gonna tell anybody. Oh no! Sorry, Chris, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Anyway, people have been asking for that for a long time, and finally I made the time to make the file and upload it and test it and all that fun stuff. So I'm looking forward to cutting into this.
So how do you make that? How do you
So you make your design in whatever art program you want to use, and then you upload it to Spoonflower. And Spoonflower is a service that prints anything on fabric, wallpaper, and maybe paper too. But fabric and wallpaper for sure. Spoonflower is the bomb. I got for one of our fans and friends and one of my clients, she found this beautiful purple dragon scale fabric that is to die for, and I made her several bags out of that, and she's got a couple more things coming. But I mean, you look around Spoonflower. If you've got a niche interest, Spoonflower is going to have some artist that has uploaded their work that will tickle you in your niche interest. I've got everything from circuit board fabric to submarines on a yellow background to one of my clients one time was a fan of dachshunds, and some artist had dachshunds in sweaters scattered on the fabric and a teal background, and I made her a bag with that fabric, even though I was not a happy camper about the fabric itself.
So you will do custom work?
Absolutely. I do a lot of custom work. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. In fact, right now, most of my income is custom work. So
awesome.
I do have a little bit of a lag right now because I've got some stuff I've got to catch up on. I'm trying to do too many things all at once. So
because every time I see you, you're spinning something. You're like you're either twirling yarn or spinning yarn or sewing something, crocheting something. So I know you're constantly.
I just can't sit still with my hands still. In fact, what I'm playing with now is this putty that used to be color changing when you played with it, and it's so old it doesn't color change anymore. But I cannot just sit still. I never just sit and watch something. I take plain knitting to the movies, because if I don't, I fall asleep. So I don't want to fall asleep.
No.
Not at the prices movies cost these days.
So now I either heard or saw that you did furniture design.
I did in my art school. I went wanting a textiles program, and I just wasn't smart enough to look around a little bit and see that an hour south of where I lived, the main school where I was at I lived in Whiteland, Indiana at the time, and in Bloomington, Indiana, where Indiana University is, they have a textiles program in their art degree. I was so focused on Indianapolis and IUPUI that was where I went. I went to Heron School of Art. I graduated. I was one of the few to graduate on time. Almost everybody there was on the 5 to 10 year program. But by the time I graduated, I had a 1-year-old, so I needed to be done,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I ended up in woodworking, because I liked it better than ceramics at the time, although I kind of wish that I had chosen ceramics instead. But I'm one of those people that if it's tactile, I love it. So all the tactile things have my attention.
No, the reason I'm interested in the furniture making, well, for several reasons. One, I am I feel like novice might be a little too high for what I can do. I think I'm right below novice.
Nah.
Woodworking. I made Marisa promise me that I could make try my hand at making furniture once we land someplace.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested in that. And I've gone to maker spaces and stuff like that.
Right.
And people watching now and in the future, if you don't know about maker spaces, there's probably one in your area.
If you have a big enough city.
Yes, if you have a big enough city that can support it. They're usually nonprofit. Sometimes it's a library that'll put them on.
Yep.
And you can learn anything from what Joy does, as far as the fiber arts or ceramics or woodworking. It depends on the maker space. But if you're at all interested in that kind of stuff, you don't just have to rely on YouTube. You can go to these maker spaces and they have classes and all that. And a lot of times the memberships are very low. Check them out. It's good stuff.
Yep. There's a nice one, or there was anyway. I don't know if it's still there, in Nashville, called Fort Houston. And for as low as like $100 a month, you could have your own dedicated studio space there where you could leave your tools and materials safely. They had a full wood shop. They had a full screen print shop. They had a full motorcycle mechanic shop.
Yeah.
They had a full jewelry shop. They had everything. And they had gotten sponsorships. So the tools in their wood shop were all from Jet. It's like, okay, top of the line wood tools. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, I want to. In fact, I want to get a wood lathe, a small one, for the trailer eventually. But
if you want a little one, go to Harbor Freight and get the little one that they have there. That's the one I kept. I had a much bigger one that took up too much space in the barn studio that I had. So I didn't use it very often, and I was kind of afraid of it because it was overpowered for most of the stuff I do, which tended to be drop spindles and things like that. This one happens to have a ceramic whorl and was made by a very talented woodworker and ceramicist by the name of Robin Goatee, Goatey, and he has an Etsy shop, and he does a lot of the fiber festivals around, and he is super talented. And he did you see what looks like lightning on it? That's actual burn marks from running electricity through it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Lichtenberg figures is what they're called, and they're the coolest.
Well, at first when you showed it, I thought it was spalted wood, but no, that's pretty cool.
No, that's the Lichtenberg figures from the electricity going through it.
That's pretty cool.
It was very cool. Yeah, I love Robin and the tools he makes. And because he, like me, has this fascination with prehistory and the very beginnings of things. So this is a replica of what a Stone Age spindle probably looked like, except that he made it in ceramics, but he also has carved stone whorls available. And so this little whorl I can take off
Mm-hmm.
and it came with 3 sticks.
Oh, okay.
So I can switch out and fill up another stick and then another one, and then I can apply those 3 together if I want. But the weight, and it came with a little bowl too. It's up here somewhere. My feedback to him after trying this, because I like to sit back and spin with this in my lap, because this is what you call a supported spindle, where you run it in the bowl like so.
Okay.
And it spins a good long time even without the weight on it. You can see one twist and it's just now starting to slow down. The bowl is not heavy enough. So the last time I saw him at a show, I said, Robin, make some heavier bowls. I don't have to be bigger, just heavier. And after that, the next time I looked at his shop, he had some bigger bowls. And I was like, yes, he listened to me.
So now, how long? I mean, you've been doing this forever. The
long time.
But now you have other creative endeavors.
Yes.
But let's so you're an editor and a writer.
Yep.
And so
I'm an absolute baby at both of those things, but I'm working hard to learn. I've got a stack of books over here that I'm reading through, things like the Copy Editor's Handbook. And I'm like, oh my God. I looked at it the other day. I was like, oh my God, there's so much I don't know about this.
So what made you get into that?
A couple of years ago, I started doing a series Bible for Terry Maggart for his Backyard Starship universe. He came to me one day and he said, I need somebody who could help me with this thing. And he's talking about having trouble keeping up with his characters and his places and his ships and all the things that are going on in this series that at the time was like, I don't know, 6 or 8 books and is now 12. And is going to go to over 25 probably. And he said, I can't keep track of them all anymore. And I know I'm going to need that because we're going, we got a long haul here. And it's something I should have been doing for the Four Horsemen universe had I had that idea at the time. And I said, well, I think that I can. Yeah, it's a great series. I love it. I can't wait to get back into book 12 that just came out 2 days ago. There are people that are already done with it. I can't get through it that fast. I can do about 4 hours a day on it before I have to go do something else because my brain melts. Yeah, so Terry got me started doing that, and it was, he was paying me like by the book, and then he was like 4 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, he calls me up and he said, because we're friends because we used to live in the same town in Tennessee. He says, I've got something else I'm hoping you can help me with. And so he's telling me, and basically he wants a wiki made for his universe. And I said, yeah, I can do that. Wikis aren't hard.
That's cool.
So went and started his wiki, and then I've picked up a couple other people for series Bibles, and I've been doing some basic author websites. I just finished Joe Boone's website. I already was maintaining mine and Mark's, and 2 for me and 1 for Mark, and then learned how to do all the YouTube stuff. Now that we're reading some of Mark's work, we got all the way through the first Avatar. You can tell how long that series has been around. Mark originally, when he first wrote that series like 20 some years ago, it was called Avatar's Overture. And long before the Avatar the movie came out, right? And long before Avatar the Airbender. Of course, when those 2 things came out and got real popular, he's like, damn it, now I can't use Avatar anymore. So we changed it to Earth Song. So we read through Earth Song Overture like last month, I think. And we're about halfway through, or maybe not quite halfway through Black and White this month, because Blood in the Water just came out. And I thought Black and White would be a great way to introduce people to that part of the Four Horsemen universe. And there was supposed to be a new one airing tonight, but I recorded it yesterday and totally forgot to edit it today. So it'll come tomorrow. But they're always at 8 p.m. And I had been doing Monday and Wednesday, but that's so tight together. I think I'm going to have to move them to Monday and Thursday, just to give myself time to edit the second one in between. Like, I can record them back to back, but editing each like 40 minutes ish episode takes like 3 hours.
So when you do an episode, how many chapters are you going through, or is it a time
the first two episodes for Black and White were just 1 or 2 chapters. Like, the first one was the prologue in chapter 1. The second one was chapters 2 and 3. After that, I went to 3 chapters because I didn't feel like it was enough to bother tuning in for. I know some people like really short videos, but I'm on the other end of that spectrum. I like them to be, 20 minutes and up rather than under 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah, because I don't want to have to stop every 20 minutes and find something else. And I'm that person that won't just put it on autoplay, because half the time I'm like, no, wrong. That's not going to work for me.
Well, especially since you're basically doing an audiobook.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are audiobooks already made for these, but we thought it might reach some more people that wouldn't find us any other way.
Well, and for those watching this, if you want to support your authors, go watch the videos,
Please, and click like and share and subscribe and all that stuff.
Yeah. What she said for this channel too.
Same for this one, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But exactly. No, I saw, and that's another reason why I wanted to have you on, because I wanted to promote that. I think that's great. What y'all are doing over there, and I love not only that, but I love people that make stuff. Whether it's books or clothing, all the stuff that you do. Now, when we were talking about the editing, now you had a former life with books.
Yeah. I when my son was about 5, I think, I've always loved libraries. I basically grew up in the library in my hometown. My first job for someone other than my mother was as a page at that library. And then when my son was about 4 or so, I went back to work at that library as a librarian's assistant at not much more than minimum wage. And I was doing almost the same job as the librarians, who were getting paid much more decently, not great, but much more decently than $8 an hour. And I, hemmed and hawed about going to grad school. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. I mean, my mom went for a few years while I was in high school, but she didn't graduate with anything. My sister, I think my sister has a bachelor's degree, and she went for a while working on an MBA, but didn't finish it. And that was after I finished my master's. I was like, that was something I had never even thought about in my life before. I didn't think it was for me. I didn't think I could or was allowed, to do something like go to graduate school. What? Like, I've got an art degree. Isn't that good enough? Apparently not. And when my dad, who's a brick and block layer and spent 47 years of his life working hard at that profession and was very, very good at it. That's one of the places I get my maker gene from. I get it honestly from both sides, but my dad is the mechanic that can make anything happen. When he asked me, when he heard I was going back to school, he said, "What do you want to do that for?" I said, "Well, double my pay." He goes, "Okay, I get it." And when I graduated, by then I was well and truly into spinning, and I knew I had mostly drop spindles or supported spindles at that time, and I really, really wanted a spinning wheel. So I had a little bit of money left over from my student loans from my last semester, and I took that and I went to the nearest shop to me, which was about an hour's drive away, that had spinning wheels. And I sat down and I tested out 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them. And I ended up falling in love with the one called the Ashford Joy. And it was named after Mrs. Ashford, whose first name happened to be Joy. And they're a company out of New Zealand. And that was my graduation present to myself for my master's, because I didn't have a party. I didn't anything. I don't think, I'm not sure I even went to that graduation ceremony. I don't think I did, because I think I was already in Texas. We've moved around quite a lot before we became RVers, and moved around even more frequently. But Mark had already taken a job in Texas, and during Christmas break, Patrick and I went down to see him in Texas, and I interviewed at Fort Worth Public Library, and was hired to be a assistant branch manager and children's librarian for the Seminary South branch at Fort Worth Public Library, where I served for 2 years. Had a good time there. But then my sister had a child, and I wanted to be closer to home so that I could see my niece or nephew, whatever it was going to be. We didn't know at the time. It turned out she was a niece, and she's now 16 and driving, which is terrifying. I am not that old.
Yeah,
I'm not that old.
Marisa yells at me all the time for doing math like that.
Right? Yeah. Don't do those maths.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we looked for something closer and decided whoever got closest, but not too close, was going to be the winner. And I found a county librarian job in a very small rural county in Kentucky, which was perfectly fine for me. I love living in the country. What I did not know was that this town was particularly stuck on the people that had been there for generations, and everybody else was permanently an outsider. Unless your great-great-grandpa had been born there, you were never going to get anywhere with the people in that town. Which, fine, every town has its thing, but I spent 4 years there, during which the entire time Mark, the closest job he could find was 3 hours away in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow.
Because he was a U.S. Customs broker. So his job pool was much more limited than mine, which, that should have told us whose job to follow. So by the time I'd been there for 4 years, Patrick was finishing middle school, getting ready to start high school. And after 4 years of living apart, I told Mark, okay, it's now or never. Long story short, I gave up my job, and we all moved together to Tennessee, to a place where he could easily commute, yada, yada. We were still in a country location, so we could still have our chickens and ducks and geese and all that fun stuff, which of course I loved. And I miss my goats. I miss my sheep. And as a wool person, I hate to say this, but I miss my goats more than I miss my sheep.
Oh no.
I know.
Wait, did you ever make cheese?
No, we didn't have milk goats. We had meat goats and what they call brush goats. So the just mishmash mutt goats. But they were so fun. They're at least as smart as dogs. They will follow you around, and if you're not careful, they will butt you in the butt and knock your butt onto the ground. Mark tells the funniest farm stories. One of these days, when he's got a drink in him, you're going to have to get him to tell farm stories.
Challenge accepted. All right.
Right. So when we moved to Tennessee, I couldn't find a library job. So I ended up working at Joann Fabrics. And that actually leads me back to sewing, because I nominally learned to sew in middle school. On those horrible school machines with the non-instruction that the teacher gives you, because she doesn't really know how to sew. But my job at Joann Fabrics was as the coordinator for the classes, and I, took care of getting the teachers and all that fun stuff. And half the time I'd be there working my hours when there was a sewing class going on, and I happened to like the sewing instructor, and so she let me sit in on a couple of classes, because she knew then she could draft me to help with future classes. And so I learned that sewing machines weren't so terrible after all. I had been sewing for the previous 10 years or so on a treadle machine, on an antique that's run with your feet,
Pedal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that machine. I still own it. I will never give it up. It will be passed on someday after I die.
That's the cast iron base.
Yes, cast iron
Yeah.
base, like 1903 or something. Singer, pretty early, but not entirely early, because 1860s is when most of those machines started really becoming available.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I love it, and I will never, like I said, I will never give it up. But so I learned the basics of sewing on that machine, and then I learned about electric machines once I was working at Joann's. So really, it's just been in the last 15 years that I've sewn a lot. In the last 25 years, I've been spinning, knitting. My grandma taught me to crochet when I was 8. So I've been doing handwork all my life. I learned to embroider somewhere along the way. I love to embroider. Um, but it's one of those things that you can't really turn to sales without doing the same mind numbing thing over and over again every day. Um, at least when I'm sewing the same things over and over again, I can, turn on a podcast or an audiobook or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's hard for me to actually sit down and read a book because I'm kind of like you. I'd rather do other things, even if it's just messing around with my phone.
Yep.
It's hard for me to just sit down, and plus I'm so slow, so I do audio. Um, Speaking of books,
Yes.
let's bring it back to CKP real quick.
Yes. Absolutely.
And um, so you did some things here, and you brought romance to CKP.
That
So
was a joint project between Sheila and myself,
right.
and we were hoping it would take off. But what we learned is that there's a whole lot more to know about romance as a market
Mm-hmm.
than we were equipped with at the time. And those were great projects. We both had a good time doing them, and I would love to do some more like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it's one thing too many right now. CKP is a small publisher, and he puts out an awful lot for being a one-person shop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just there wasn't enough interest in the ones we put out, because most of our crowd is sci-fi and fantasy.
Right.
So those two showed us that we can do it, but
Mm.
that most of our customers aren't interested in it.
Now,
Um,
wait, are they both anthologies or
yes, they're both
okay?
anthologies. Hmm.
Okay, because I think Marisa wrote for one of them.
Yes, she
Yeah.
may have written for more than one. I see her name on Flights of Fantasy. I don't remember who all. It's been several years now. I don't remember who all wrote for Men in Uniform.
Okay.
Um, and I don't. I know I've got a story in one of them, but I don't know if it's in both or not. So,
So, so was this or was the Bible that you were talking about earlier your first step into editing?
the those two books were my
Those.
first
So how was
step
that
into
process?
editing.
I mean, being your first editing job,
Well,
how was that?
there's all different kinds of editing. So
Mm-hmm.
there's editing like putting together an anthology, choosing the stories that fit the theme and the quality and all of that stuff. That's kind of, to me, like high end editing. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's copy editing and line editing and developmental editing and proofreading, all those other things. Also, we call editor,
Mm-hmm.
um, but they all have slightly different skill sets, and they come in at different times along the continuum. And one can be an anthology editor without being a proofreader or copy editor or line editor or any of those things, because those things you can always hire to have done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was interesting. So now I've had a taste of all of the things. I did a beta read for somebody, where, because of the length of the work involved, I read about half of it, wasn't seeing anything different that I didn't see in the first few chapters. Sent him his feedback, um, and I haven't heard back from him, but I did check with some other editors, told them, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I want to say. Check me that I'm not, sticking my foot deep in my mouth, because I tend to do that, especially when I don't think to check.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, uh, some jobs you have great feedback from, and some jobs you have no feedback from. Um, But yeah, I would like to put together some more anthologies. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually working on a project right now with Casey Azell. She announced it the other day, and we had been keeping it a secret,
Mm-hmm.
to do some paranormal romance. We're
Ooh.
doing Witches in Love, but we're having fun with it, and I'm learning as I go. So I'm taking the female lead, and she's taking the male lead, and then we'll weave them together. And we're using Plotter, which is a great tool, Plottr.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a lovely tool. It will take you by the hand and guide you through your story,
Awesome.
which is awesome, especially when you're a brand new writer. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm this person that never like Chris Kennedy tells this story about like 81% of people at some point in their life say, I want to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I was never in that 81%. Despite being a librarian for over 10 years, despite being a lover of books from the time I could pick them up and read, which I
Mm-hmm.
learned to read before I could remember learning to, I don't remember learning to read. My mom
Mm-hmm.
says at 2, I would sit down and read the books out loud because she'd read them to me so much with her finger under the words.
Mm-hmm.
I had never been one of those people that wanted to write. And then, I help Mark a lot with his stuff because he'll bounce ideas off of me and I'll say, well, okay, that doesn't really work. Why don't, that's not, I don't think that's how that person would react. What about this? So we go back and forth a lot, and we bounce a lot of new world ideas around as well. And we've got a project called the Traveling Gods Universe, um, which I don't know enough right now to write effectively. I've gotten a couple of chapters written in it, but I don't really know how to carry my part. And so that's what I'm learning working with Casey, and that's
Mm-hmm.
helping a lot. We had a hour-long conversation yesterday where I was like, all right, you've seen the first 5,000 words I've got. I'm out of ideas. What do I do? And she was able to tell me, well, you're looking at things from like on top of her head, a camera, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to be inside her head. And I was like, and she gave me some real concrete examples, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. I got it now, I think. Um, and as I consume media, whether it be an audiobook or a print book, I'm paying attention now to those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this character says, in the middle of an action scene, I stabbed him again, and I stabbed him again, and I, whirled around and did this, and so I'm learning as I read and consume other media. But you would think after mumbledy mumble years of reading, I would have picked some of that up, and sort of had, but it's different when you're actually doing the writing. So, I'm just a baby at this, and I'm learning.
Yeah, it was. It's like you never notice your particular car that's driving by you until you buy that car, and then you see them
Yes,
everywhere. And
yes,
it's kind of the same thing. When you're paying attention, is when you notice the thing. So
yes, and
now, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay. And like you notice tropes all the time because you're like, okay, well, this is paranormal romance. It's got to be a fairly young witch or were or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's romance, so they got to fall in love, but they also have to not, they have to have reasons they don't want to fall in love with this particular person. And they have to, overcome those reasons and, to make a satisfying end when they finally get together, whether they're guy, girl, or other. It's the struggle for the resolution that makes the story good. So, you have to learn how to make those things happen.
So this series, is it also going to be like urban fantasy, like contemporary setting, or is it going to?
Yes. Yes. It's
Awesome,
contemporary. Yep.
awesome. Urban fantasy is one of my favorite kinds of fantasy because I don't have to work as hard.
I really like urban fantasy.
Yeah. So if you had to pick, I know you want to do multiple genres of editing,
Yeah.
uh, and but if you had to pick a type of editing, what would be your wheelhouse?
I'm really enjoying these series Bibles right
Mm-hmm.
now. And series Bibles and beta reads, I think, are probably where, just because I've been a reader, an avid reader all my life. I mean, at 9, I read the Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. And my mom said, well, I don't think you'll understand it, but yeah, you can try it. Well, I read it faster than she did. And when she quizzed me on it, I answered all of her questions successfully, after which time she went to the librarians who happened to be her customers because she was a hairdresser in town.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a small town. I couldn't get done doing the bad thing before she knew somebody had called her and said, hey, your kids are over here doing X.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like
She
my
would leave her
hometown.
person sit in the chair, say, I'll be back in 10 minutes. And she would run across town, grab us for whatever we were doing, haul our butts home or back to the shop. And, but yeah, she went to the librarians and said, okay, Joy can read whatever she wants. Don't limit her to the children's room anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, and that's a big book. That's a thick book.
Mm-hmm.
It's not short. I happen to be listening to it again. I just started it today. Which was awesome. I tend to listen while I'm walking, or if I'm doing something with my hands and nothing with my brain. But yeah, it's one of those books that's a long time pleasure to go back to again and again. And I know that's how Marisa started too, and Casey.
Mm-hmm. Burn porn.
So yep.
I don't know if you saw the Dragon Wars episode last week.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. Middle age urban fantasy is great.
It is. There's a whole bunch now of 40 something protagonists in urban fantasy, and I think the one series that I first discovered first is called the 40 Proof series. Main character is female. She's in her 40s. She's newly divorced, and she goes back to her hometown where her grandmother was a witch, one of the good witches, and helped to keep the paranormal balance in the town and keep it safe. And now grandma has died, and she has to learn her magic, which she never knew existed before, and help step into grandma's footsteps. So there's a lot of middle-aged protagonists coming up, and it's good to see fiction broadening out from the 20 somethings that we get in TV.
Yeah, I agree, because I've just I've realized that my reading level is kind of YA.
I love
But
YA stuff.
I do too, but I hate all the because YA tends to have a lot of romance in it, or
Yeah.
love triangles and emotional things that don't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, you're a
and,
guy, and most YA's written for girls.
yeah, but every now and then I get lucky, and it's okay. And
Yep.
but I've been let down a few times, and they've made movies out of these things.
Yeah.
And I read them, and I'm like, ugh. But so that makes me knowing that there's some middle-aged stuff, because I am a man of a certain age.
You're getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so knowing that that's coming out, I can relate to that a little bit better,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Something you might like that has a male protagonist that's really stunning YA is by Nancy Farmer. It's called The House of the Scorpion.
Okay.
Give it a try. It's good. It's really good.
House of the
There came the librarian again, see?
If somebody wanted to hit you up for editing and stuff like that, what is the best place to do that?
You can just email me. You can get me through any of the social media. You can drop by my editing website, editingwithjoy.com, which I forgot to tell you about earlier because space case today. The squirrels in my brain are a little crazy. I didn't realize until about a year ago that, gosh, ADHD is a thing, and it is a thing in my life.
I
was telling somebody that at MarsCon, and she goes, really? You didn't know that until a year ago? I knew that the moment I met you. I was like, I don't know. What can I say?
Yeah, I feel like I have some undiagnosed things as well.
I think a lot of us do.
So now, we talked about Worldmaker Books on YouTube. And what book are you currently doing?
We are currently reading through Black and White.
Black and White. Do you have plans
tomorrow
for the
should
next?
be chapters like 10 to 12, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe 13 to 15. I don't know. We're right in that section there somewhere.
Okay, so now the last time I saw you, I was harassing you. I may have had a
Yes.
few. I may have had a few drinks.
You
So
were a couple of sheets to the wind. I'm not
I,
sure
wa-
you were all the way to 3 sheets to the wind, but you were getting there.
I was there. I was. It was late, but anyway. So I was just giving Joy an ear beating about her putting more content on her Spinners in Studio YouTube channel because
Yeah.
people love that shit.
Yep.
And so I want everybody that's watching now and watching in the future is bully her into making more content for this because people that's where I learned to make stuff is
Yeah.
watching YouTube and stuff like that. And I think that kind of stuff will eventually take off, especially now that you're already making content with
Yeah.
Worldmaker Books. So I'm
Yeah.
I don't want to call it bullying. Let's encourage. Let's
Encourage.
encourage.
Okay.
Yes, we're not going to
Say there
bully.
are only so many hours in the day.
Yes, but no. But and this is my personal thing because this is the kind of content that I like. Whenever I want to make something, I go to YouTube and I search because yes, guys, so too.
Yes.
And
Several very famous guys. So,
yeah, and so and when you're first starting out, you need content like yours
yeah.
to help you get through it. So she's already got some stuff out there, but let's encourage to get some more out there. But
Yeah.
go check that out here. So are you are besides the how'd you say romance the series
Hmm.
you're doing with Casey?
Paranormal romance.
Paranormal romance.
Yeah.
Besides that, do you have any other projects that you're thinking about doing, or would you like to do? Or
We're Mark and I are partway into that Traveling Gods book that I mentioned, and
Mhm,
he's got that's a pretty fully fleshed out world at this point. He's gotten a lot more done in that novel than I do.
mhm,
But like I said, I had to step back and learn some stuff before I could go back to working on it. And then
mhm,
I have a project that my like use name for it is Everyday Witch, where it's basically somebody like me
mhm,
finds out that after they're middle aged
mhm,
that that they're actually a witch. I don't know if you've been in my place, but I've
mhm,
got you can see over here. There we go.
mhm,
Over there, that's my little "The Witch is In" sign.
mhm,
I've got bats everywhere. I've got these bright things right above my head are calaveras. They're skulls from the Mexican tradition.
mhm,
Um, those globes there are one is spider webs and the other is bats. And
mhm,
I'm just a witchy chick, and I always have been. And so I kind of wanted to see myself in a current day in a fantasy situation where, oh my gosh, there's that the magic is actually like for real, like point at something and zot it real.
mhm,
Um, and I think that one's going to be a murder mystery. So it's going to, and that's a lot of what I read is like paranormal
mhm.
slash murder mystery, which I don't know why it's such a thing right now, but it's everybody loves mysteries, I guess. I've never been a mystery reader. My mom was a mystery reader all her life. She
Mhm,
still is. Um, like, Lee Child and all those guys.
mhm.
But for some reason, the paranormal mystery solving is right up my alley. So that one's going
No,
to be a paranormal mystery.
so I like that idea because, like I said earlier, I'm a man of a certain age, and to find out something so significant about yourself that late in life that you
Yeah.
never knew, that's compelling. I like that
Yeah.
idea.
And
I like that.
like you suspected it, you hoped for it, you wished for it, but you knew still that it was just wish,
Hmm.
and then to find out that, oh no, it's not a wish, it's for real, like for real. Um, I think is something that like Harry Potter gave that to a lot of kids. I'd like to see it happen for us.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
mean, I
I
was a
mean,
librarian when Harry Potter hit the scene, and man, what a change in children's reading.
mhm. Oh,
Um,
I mean, I've read and reread those. I've watched and rewatched the movies. It's a very compelling story,
we own them
and
all in print,
mhm,
audio, and the movies.
yeah, and it's just, I mean, there's a reason that she's a billionaire now. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. And it's
um,
because everybody can see themselves in Harry.
hmm
And if you can't see yourself in Harry, you can see yourself in Ron or Hermione.
yeah, and yeah, for
So,
some reason the trio books,
uh-huh.
uh, the buddy books tend to
Yep.
do pretty
Well,
well too.
like, you familiar with Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card?
hmm
He wrote Ender's Game in order to actually get to the buddy book that's the one that's just Ender and Bean, and
Oh, Speaker for the Dead.
it's literally a buddy story. I don't remember the name of that one.
Speaker for the
Um,
Dead, or
well, Speaker for the Dead is I think the second or third one he wrote.
okay,
I don't remember, and the story with where it's just Ender and Bean comes
hmm
up a little later, I think.
okay,
But man, it's the best one of that entire series.
yeah.
Um, I'll look it
I
up when we're done, and you can, if you want to link stuff, you can link it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I didn't. I loved the book. The movie, meh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the movie was so. It could have been done better.
yeah, they tried to do too much, but
Yeah, but
no. So
Ender's Shadow is the one.
Ender's Shadow.
Ender's
Ender's
Shadow.
Shadow. Okay. So
Thank
Joy,
you, Mark.
so we could talk all night,
We
which
could.
we have in the past, but
Yes.
so if you would, let's go ahead and promote everything that you have coming up,
Okay.
your websites and everything. Do that again for the people, and so where can people see you next?
Next place I'll be is at Fantasy. I think that's March 21 through 23. Don't
hmm
quote me on that. And that is in, I want to say Raleigh, Durham, but I don't think that's right. Anyway, it's not too far from here. And
Fantasize Raleigh Durham.
it is Raleigh, Durham. Okay. I
Yep, yep,
thought maybe, but you go so many places and do so many things, and things
yeah.
just fall out your head.
mhm,
I'll be at Fantasy. Please come see me. I'm going to try to have some dragons available since the theme is dragons this
mhm.
year. And I'll have the Four Horsemen bags available too. And those are I'm not gonna pre-sell those. They'll go first come first serve in the dealer room, because I think that's the only fair way to do it. Then after that, I'll be at Hoosier Hills Fiber Festival in Franklin, Indiana, first weekend in June, and then we'll be at LibertyCon the second or third weekend in June, and then we'll be at FactoryCon. You can also find me as either Nitnick or Spinners in Studio on any and all of the social media sites. You can PM me directly if you want, send me a friend request, whatever. As long as you look like a normal human being and not a bot, I will accept your friend request. And my website, spinnersandstudio.com and editingwithjoy.com. And then Mark's is worldmakerbooks.us.
Okay.
So you can get us at all those places.
And all those
Oh,
places.
sorry, worldmaker.us, not Worldmaker Books. My bad.
God, Worldmaker. So, and they can hit you up there for editing and making stuff and
Anything.
all
Yeah.
that stuff. Okay.
Yep. I'm
Well,
not picky about how you get a hold of me. Don't call me on the phone. I'm unlikely to answer. Text me. That's great. Send me an email. That's excellent.
all right, people. Well, let's everybody that's watching this, let's blow her up with orders, and go see her at the conventions. Joy, I want to thank you for coming. This episode was more for me than anything, because I like makers and people who do stuff like that, and I wish you the best of luck with your editing and your making and all that stuff coming up, and I really appreciate you coming on. And before we go, me do some plugs. Of course, go check out Joy. When are you uploading your next video?
Tomorrow
Tomorrow.
for
So
Worldmaker. Yeah.
so go check her out on Worldmaker, and also you can see some of her sewing videos on Spinners in Studio, and of course all just search Joy Wandrey if you
Yeah.
want some custom work done or anything like that. In addition to that, I want to highlight some other affiliated YouTube channels. We've got Casey Ezel, The Writer Life on YouTube. She puts out content every week, every other week or so. She's a busy lady, but it's good stuff. Marisa Wolf, my lovely wife, is going to start putting out more content on her YouTube channel, and of course, if you're watching this, you're on the CKP YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, support the channel, and support your fellow authors. And of course, go to ckp.com for all your publishing needs. And in addition, we just had, speaking of the CKP YouTube channel, we just had another episode of future books come out. So if you want to know anything that's coming out soon for CKP, check this podcast out. It's hosted by Randall Willis, and it's produced by Shark Flight Media, our good buddy Ian Malone. And you can find that anywhere you find podcasts, but also the CKP YouTube channel. Nice. And I think that's all I have. Joy, thanks again. This has been...
Like and subscribe.
Oh, yes, please. If you like it, like and subscribe. Even if you don't like it, tell your neighbors, tell people you don't like. I don't care. Tell them to come in and like and subscribe. You'll be doing us a favor, and we can continue to put out content like this. And so Joy, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and coming on here. And anytime you want to come on, you're welcome. If you have something to promote, I'll be happy to help you out.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I had a really great time, Jeremy. This was fun.
This is good. And I will see you at Fantasy.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
Yay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, goodbye.